Welcome everybody to the Talking Box Show. So I'm going to read over this news report. But before I do that, I need some light. I don't want to come off as a weirdo making a YouTube video sitting in the dark. All right. Let's lighten it up a little bit in here, huh? All right, everybody. So I'm going to analyze, dissect this news report and give my commentary on it. So this was published yesterday on the Fox News channel. You Google search the title and find this report. It's titled Texas Rancher Eviscerates Traitorous Biden. Warns it's a matter of time before cartels enter border towns. So this report is after, tragically, the 4 Black Americans that were kidnapped. 2 of them, unfortunately, were killed in Mexico, northern Mexico, a few days ago. So that's what this Fox News report stems from. The person that wrote it is Amy Nelson from Fox News. I mean, just the title itself is the most disrespectful, dishonorable way you can talk about something if it's true, right? Instead of disrespecting, for example, the United States President, Joe Biden. And no one's talking about how these conservative Christians that are politicians, obviously this lady's not a politician. She probably has, obviously she has political connections. She was able to get on Fox News, right, to spread her fear mongering, the bad Mexicans, right? Because that's the inference here. It says Texas rancher Debbie Douglas spoke out Thursday about the escalating danger at the border after 4 Americans were kidnapped and 2 killed by a cartel in Mexico, right? Douglas Ranch is located in Brownsville, a city that sits along the Mexico border adjacent to Matamoros, where the kidnapping took place. So Matamoros is Mexico, where the kidnapping took place. Condolences to the family and the community and the friends of these people. May Hashem heal the survivors. So keep in mind, Douglas is a ranch, obviously in Brownsville. So this woman is obviously going to be rich, and she's going to be a Texas conservative Christian, Republican, private citizen, right? I can't get my story aired on national news or taken by any news agencies, right? But this fear mongering person could. And the Fox News channel, from what I could tell, they're hateful towards Mexican Americans. But keep in mind, there's a lot of Mexican Americans that identify as Chicano or, or as Mexican, and they don't like other Mexican Americans. Not all of them, but here in Texas, I discovered quite a bit. And the ones that are racist I'm talking about are people with higher educations. They're either medical doctors, nurse practitioners, attorneys, police officers, people with, obviously with higher incomes and higher education. But the common denominator I found is that they're conservative Christians. And that's a bad thing if you don't know anything about church history, conservative Republican American history, right? Keep in mind, I'm from Denver, Colorado. Man, a bad state too, right? The KKK. And I'm making these videos because brown people like me are underrepresented. No one represents us, you guys. And I'm half white too. So what I guess they call a person like me a white Mexican, right? So I have no rights, basically. I'm only good to be prosecuted, but not protected by the United States Constitution, let alone each American state laws. But I have to abide by them. I only will be prosecuted, but I have to follow the laws here in the United States of America. And I'm from here. I'm from Denver, Colorado. But anyways, I know a lot of history about I'm half native Mexican American. I'm Pascua Yaqui. Look up the Yaqui Wars if you're familiar with my tribe. Yaqui is spelled Yaqui. So Douglas said, so keep in mind, Douglas is on the hill. She lives on top of the hill in a mansion. She's out of touch with reality. She's delusional. She's not like us Americans, impoverished down here in these hoods, right? Where everybody's at, all skin colors are at. So this lady's out of touch with reality and obviously out of touch with society. But she says, Douglas said on Fox and Friends first that living conditions in her area are only getting worse, and she doesn't believe anything will improve, even if the cartel members are arrested. So the living conditions in Texas. If you hear my story and how I, relay the stories about other American workers. One's a female white American worker, another Mexican American worker. There's no American labor right protections here. You can't hire an attorney. No attorneys will want to represent you here in Amarillo, Texas. That's how bad the living conditions are here in Texas, and how it's impacting not only brown Americans but all Americans. So she wants to. These fearmongers, they come from this church, right? They're conservative Christians. If you feel I'm disrespecting Christians, I'm not. I was baptized as a Roman Catholic Christian. I just happen to know church history. Everybody that doesn't identify as a Catholic Christian, this is church history and world history. Your religion is only 500 years old or less. That's a big problem. That's a big issue. It's the church system that's spreading this hate, right? I mean, I tell people all the time, like, we're living in a narcissistic society today. People love themselves. And that's it. They only love their own kids or their own parents or their own family, let alone their friends, right? And so I see the problem here, and I see the common denominator or the learned behavior in this woman's. I didn't watch the video, but just reading it, and that's why I'm analyzing where she's coming from and how it's hate speech, and also the inference. What about this? I'm just going off of what she literally said, and what about the inference she's making? Obviously, I've said in my last video that she's sending some kind of messages or message to white America, I guess, that believe in Texas Republican conservative Christian values, which is blasphemy, right? That's what they believe in, believe it or not. Anytime you hate yourself or another person, you deny the existence of God. You're disrespecting God because, like the church says, you're made in the image, right, of God. And then what the rabbis say, hey, it's really a shadow. We're, the shadow of God. That's who we are in our relationship to God, right? So, either way, however you're told or the way you understand it, maybe you just believe in it and not totally understand that. It all ties into this report and other reports. I can't believe Fox News Channel is getting away with promoting all these lies and then being racist, right? And putting ideas in the public, right? The American public, in their minds, putting lies, feeding like poison in their mind, trying to psychologically dupe a person to believe that there's this Mexican invasion, right? Because anytime, think about it, ask yourself, maybe you have to meditate, contemplate on it in a quiet place. Ask yourself, when I think about a legal immigrant, what's the first word that comes in my mind? And, usually from what I can tell, it's going to be Mexicans. So it's going back to the 1930s and the 1940s, the Brown Scare, the time when the Republicans at that time, the president, think it was Roosevelt, when they massively deported Mexican Americans to Mexico, like over 2 million. Yeah, this is real. It's called the Mexican American Repatriation Act. So this is why I'm calling out publicly on YouTube, like, why is Fox News promoting this hate speech? And this lady, she don't understand the implications it has on Mexican Americans. And I believe that Mexican Americans don't understand that when, the ones that's called Mexicans or anybody illegal immigrants, I don't think these, they truly understand that they've been programmed, preconditioned to hate their own kind. And when they're coming from the church, they're actually hating God. They're committing blasphemy against God. They're denying the existence of God, since we're all made in the image of God, right? Now, remember, I don't like getting into theological debates about the Bible unless you're studying the Hebrew, the Aramaic, and the New Testament Greek. I don't have time to play games with any scholars or any pastors or any religious person that doesn't read the Bible or study the Bible in its original languages, because I found in these English translations of the Bible that it's inaccurately translated, and there's words put in there. For example, the word church in the Greek New Testament, there's no word for church. Ecclesia doesn't mean, in Greek, it means a congregation, like a community of Jewish people, things of that nature. But it all ties into this report. So it says the Mexican government is afraid of the cartel, she reasoned. If Biden does not do something, this is going to come more into our country. She's talking about, now think about what she is saying, you guys. Critically think about what she is really saying on Fox News and getting away with it. Now, what I do know, the brown politicians here in the United States of America, it's like, they're afraid to speak out publicly to condemn this kind of speech. This is hate speech against brown Americans and biracial Americans, because a lot of us are, like in my case, African and white and Jewish, Native Mexican American, right? DNA. There's a lot of black Mexicans like Ocho Cinco, right? The NFL superstar. Um, there's, a lot of people that are biracial, and that whether they're Native Mexican or Native American, or come from that South America, right, or even up in Canada, to the Native Americans up there. Um, this is offending all of us, putting all of us down. And as a crossbreed, right? I'm not a half breed, I'm a crossbreed. So have Asian DNA and African DNA and European DNA and Spanish and Portuguese, DNA, and freaking, you're not obviously this side of the continent, right? And I just can't believe no one's speaking out on this. And the implications, I'm a victim of racism here in Amarillo, Texas, you guys. And the government is involved now, and the Amarillo Police Department and both district attorney offices. It's crazy. And I still can't hire an attorney, and I still can't get the Department of Justice to answer my emails. And understand, when under the Trump administration, the FBI was weaponized. And look at me, a poor guy. It was weaponized against me. The FBI was weaponized against me. I ended up I'm still, as far as I know, I'm on the American terrorist list because I asked for help. That's it. I filed a complaint of racism and ended up on the terrorist list here in the United States of America. So I got to speak out on it because nobody else is. And this lady right here is wrong, and the Fox News channel is wrong. So she says, Douglas said, the community is largely unaware of the severity of the danger, and she believes the two individuals killed in Mexico didn't take the threat to heart when they traveled across the border. Look, this lady is in a ranch in Brownsville, Texas, on the border, okay? If you go to this link, or if you look up this news article in the video, the Fox News video, it gives a demographic map of how far where the 4 Black Americans were kidnapped from where this lady, the city she lives in. She's in a ranch. She's not even in the city of Brownsville, Texas, right? So that means she's in an isolated area here in the United States of America along the border. She's so afraid, right? And there's so many, like she's alleging there's the Mexican cartel, right? Is going to come up here and it's going to invade the United States of America and take over United States cities and towns like hers, right? Why is she in the ranch in the first place? If that's true, think about it. That's why I say it's fear mongering, hate speech. And she's using, along with the Fox News channel and the person that wrote this report, they're using that incident to intensify the racial division, right? The racist or the racism, the climate of racism here in the United States of America. She's using, Fox News channel, and obviously the Fox News channel supports hate speech to get a message to other Americans out there to put in their mind that there's some invasion happening or going to happen now, right? It's been like this for years, you guys. Like I said, it predates, this hate speech predates the Mexican American repatriation that happened here in the United States of America. And the Mexican Americans they took out, they're all over the United States. Like I keep telling people, no, we're the majority people here in the United States of America. That's why we're not in movies, right? Commercials. We're not represented. We're underrepresented or not represented at all. But everybody sees us, right? We're everywhere. But what about the crossbreeds like me? And how's it affecting? How's this hate speech affecting people like me? Yeah, these people try to murder me at work. A doctor assaulted me. I was threatened by police. I had charges pressed on me for pressing the charges on the doctor. The phone call when the detective Wesley Brown at the Emerald Police Department threatened to press charges on me and did press charges on me. He recorded that phone call, and the Emerald Police Department still has it. The Sergeant Lane, the internal affairs sergeant at the Emerald Police Department, I talked to him last year. He won't release the video call to me, but they still have it. They can't get rid of it. It's the MR police report that says there's a phone call, but like I said, they treat me like I'm not an American citizen, and they won't give me that audio call because they know what I'll do with it. Obviously, no news outlet will put my case, right? Like you won't see me on any news channels. You won't see any investigators getting involved because that's how far-reaching these crimes they commit against me by a lot of powerful people here in Texas. Politicians, rich people, conservative Christians. They didn't like the fact that I was a Yaqui Jew. But so she says, Douglas said the community is largely unaware of the severity of the danger, and she believes that 2 individuals killed in Mexico didn't take the threat to heart when they traveled across the border. Douglas says she believes it's only a matter of time before cartels attempt to take over the border towns in her states. Can you guys imagine that? This lady is wealthy, and she probably has higher education. If she doesn't, then why aren't you spending your money to invest in yourself and your education? That's the main problem here in the United States of America. A lot of people that are poor were not properly educated, especially when you go to these church institutions. They're not going to teach you nothing but to hate yourself. Like I said, blasphemy. So do you guys really think that a cartel is going to come here and invade any United States city or town? And are these, why is she, let's ask this question. Why is this woman, is it because she's white and she's rich and she's a Christian, a conservative Christian, that she's credible? We got to believe what she's saying, that what she's saying is the ultimate truth. Because when you dissect it and critically think over this, you're like, this lady is out of touch with reality. But that's how a lot of these rich people are, like Donald Trump, fear mongering, right? The Mexican invasion. He actually, and this is something you don't see in news reports anywhere, not even on the YouTube social media platforms that, put out news and everything, independent news outlets. They don't talk about the hate crimes against brown Americans here in the United States of America that increased when Donald Trump became the president. And she's, like him, he's out of touch with reality too. Donald Trump, they're rich people. They don't mingle with us. They're too rich. They're too afraid, you know? They think somebody will commit a crime against them, but they use their platform to promote hate speech. And this right here is a prime example. This news report is promoting division, and she's trying to intensify, like cause a rift in the black and brown communities across the United States of America. But because she's in that mansion on top of the hill and not mingling in American society, she doesn't understand. There's a lot of biracial babies from both races, right? Or both cultures. I don't like using the word race because there's only one race. That's the human race, and just a bunch of different people with different cultures and everything. But this rich woman doesn't understand that, and obviously Fox News Channel, all those reporters on there, like Tucker Carlson, they're rich. They're out of touch with society. They don't understand down, especially in the hood where I come from. A lot of us come from these impoverished neighborhoods, right? I mean, there's only brown people here? Hell no. There's brown, black, white, Asian, Middle Eastern, everybody. Jews, non-Jews, Christians, Catholics, Muslims, Messianic Jews now, all that stuff. So, and I'm just tearing this report apart and calling her out, and the Fox News Channel, and calling out people for believing this hype. They're being misled, by the Antichrist. Not like the Antichrist, but in the Greek New Testament, Paul is actually talking about people that would be against the King Messiah of Israel, right? 'Cause that's how the New Testament presents Jesus Christ, not as God. Like I said, I don't like to get into any biblical debates or theological debates. No, let's go straight to the source. I sat in prison. That was my dream in life, was to be able to read the Bible in its original language, right? And then I found out there's 3 different languages being used, which is the biblical Hebrew, biblical Aramaic, and the biblical Greek New Testament. So I go straight to the source. People try to quote John 1:1, for example. No, let's quote, let's go to the Greek. And if you can read the Greek, or if not, I'll teach you how to read the Greek, and I'll show you right here. Look, this is a mistranslation. The Greek in the Greek, it doesn't say Jesus Christ is God. But let's go from, in the Greek, from John chapter 1, verse 1, all the way up to verse 18, where Jesus Christ is being called not the Son of God or the begotten Son or any of that, right? Or only begotten. No. In the Greek, it says monogenes theos. Monogenes theos in Greek is saying like a singular sal, S-E-L-L, or a singularity. That's how Jesus Christ is being presented. And that's going into actually Kabbalah, but if you're not in tune with the Orthodox rabbis today, then you wouldn't understand that in the Greek, if you could read the Greek, right? But let's get back to this. My stomach is killing me because, like I said in my last video, I have abdominal strain all around my stomach and it's been hurting. But I needed, just for my own sanity, to call this BS out and call it for what it is: hate speech against brown Americans and black Americans and white Americans, all non-racist Americans that believe in equality. So the Biden administration has called the death of Americans unacceptable and said U.S. officials will work with the Mexican government to pursue justice. Douglas, however, said the Democratic administration's plan to address the problem is a joke. The Mexican government is either partially paid off by the cartels or they fear the cartels. So the fact that Biden is saying he's going to work with them is absolutely a joke and an insult to the American people, she said. But remember, she already knew about this report about the cartel that turned in their members who acted on their own accord, and they apologized to the victims' families, and to the United States of America, and the Mexican government arrested them, and they're going to face justice now in the Mexican law, right? But like I said, if you're a racist and a fearmonger, you're gonna take her side and not really critically think about what she's saying, right? Because what she's saying is actually psychological manipulation. That's why your emotions are being triggered off. You feel some kind of hate towards brown Americans and fear, right? And anxiety. So I'm gonna call it as it is, and that's coming from the church. I'll have to apologize for people that want to argue and think different. Hey, go read your church history. But like I said, I was baptized as a Catholic um, Christian, so don't feel bad if I'm saying this about Christianity. It's just that I went and educated myself in the Bible while sitting in prison for something I didn't do. So she's criticizing the United States. In this news article, there's the demographic area, the map. So it's not too far away from each other, where the kidnapping took place. But listen to what she's saying, because you guys already know Donald Trump misled the public and calls out, all these American so-called patriots are all afraid, anxious, right? Thinking that Russia and China is going to gang up on the United States of America. You had those church, right, institutions, their false prophets and teachers telling their congregation at church and on social media, what is it, Sodom or Gog and Magog's going to happen, which is all a lie. That stuff don't happen for another 1,000 years, and that's right there in Revelations 20 that talks about all that stuff. But just fear mongering, right? Scaring everybody. And Donald Trump obviously was pacifying or selling out the United States to Russia and China. That's why Russia made his move, and that's why Joe Biden is aiding the Ukraine, and the Russian government knows, and they know, and China knows now. Underneath the leadership of Joe Biden, China is weary now about the United States of invading us or even causing any problem, right? Because we're all about peace. That's Donald Trump. They understand we have a voting system that's unique in the world, right? And Donald Trump obviously lost because the Republican states that claim there was voter fraud, right? So keep in mind, I just mentioned the Republican-led states that investigated the voter fraud that Donald Trump said he had evidence of, and his attorneys and everybody that's part of him, they're backpedaling now because the United States justice is coming down on their, crashing down on them. But they're lying and they're instilling fear. And those investigators, right? The Texas, or not the Texas, but the Republican, well, they did an audit here in Texas too, but those conservative Christian politician investigators found no evidence of mass voter fraud. Every time here in the United States of America, there's always has been and always probably will be some amount of voter fraud, and it's not even enough to even impact to change a president or to cheat a president, because that's how good our justice system works. But these are fear mongers, and now they're pointing the finger at Mexicans, and now people are going to start looking at me, right, being more hateful and everything. And I'm trying to put this video out there to dissect, right, critically thinking and just with good old fashioned sound reasoning, right, understanding where she's coming from and putting her where she's at, right, a rich person on top of the hill in the mansion, out of touch with reality because she's on that ranch, not in society, not mingling with everybody, not understanding that we're all suffering, and promoting hate speech and trying to, like I said, what cause a division between the black and brown community because she's out of touch with reality and society. She doesn't understand that there's a lot of us that are crossbreeds. So yeah, so good try, lady, and Fox News Channel, but I'm gonna call it as it is. So now she's attacking Joe Biden like he's a traitor. No, that's Donald Trump. That's those Republican politicians, the supporters that are breaking the law, supporting white supremacy and ideologies, and that's why there's a lot of hate crimes happening. And it's really God revealing here, to the world the condition of the United States of America and other countries, the spiritual condition, it's corrupt. So, but anyways, so she says, our administration is never going to wake up, Douglas said, arguing that Biden does not care about the American people. He's a puppet, and he has been protected in this country. And with him not in turn protecting the people of this country, he basically is a traitor. So I agree, because in part with what she's saying about Joe Biden being a traitor, because he's not protecting the United States of America, let alone the American people, the fabric of America, right? Now, hopefully President Joe Biden sees this video and says, you know what, I'm gonna prove Fox News Channel and the United States of America public, I'm gonna prove the ones that are call me a traitor by showing them and demonstrating to them this talking box show guy. I'm going to represent him and get the Department of Justice to investigate his Texas Department workers' compensation claim with the assaults by the medical doctors, the psychological abuse, to prove to her that he's not like Donald Trump, because all these crimes that happened to me and other people is underneath the Donald Trump administration. This stuff happened back in 2018. Imagine being crushed with an excavator bucket, right? Point of contact is your hard hat, squishes your whole body, and you receive no medical treatment. And I have over 100 catastrophic injuries that I discovered last year. And this year, 5 years later, I'm actually receiving some sort of medical treatment. So you guys did the math. And if Joe Biden sees this video and wants to do that, hey, it's the right thing to do to prove her wrong, right? And it's really the Republican Party that's corrupting the United States of America, you guys. They're going to try to control every one of us, whether you're white, black, Mexican, Asian, Middle Eastern, Indian, whatever, Native, European, they don't care. Their bracket, what they care about is how much money you have. Do you know your family history? Who are your family members in the past? Do they contribute to society? If not, if they're not rich like us, they're going to enslave all of us. And that's why there's this sense of psychological manipulation that's been happening since Donald Trump took office, right? Make America great again. I want to talk about that too in future videos, because that, on the inference level of understanding, he was, he promoted white supremacy and white nationalism prior to becoming the president and during his presidency as a rebuttal to the previous United States president administration underneath Obama, right? So this woman she says she called Biden a weak individual. She has no respect for the United States president, let alone the people that voted him in, by saying that. This guy is like, what, in his 80s? She looks like she's in her 70s, but obviously she's rich and entitled and has another standard of law that doesn't apply to her. It only applies to us poor people, but for her, she can call an older person, disrespect them, right? All my life, I was told to respect my elders, not white elders, not Mexican elders, every elder, So it'll tell a lot about me, and obviously a lot of my family values and the community I grew up in, Denver, Colorado, versus her isolated ranch, right on top in that mansion on top of the hill. So she says she called Biden a weak individual and said she believes he wants all these illegals to enter the country. Douglas claimed Democrats want to allow illegal immigrants to vote to keep the party in power. Look, Mexican Americans, listen to me. Just because I don't speak Spanish doesn't mean that I'm not a Mexican. All my life I've been called a beaner and a wetback and, mistreated and abused and sent to jails as a kid in prison, all because I was brown skinned in black gangs, right? But so pay attention when you look at. I already mentioned the blasphemy against God by hating people, right? So you think you might be a Chicano or Mexican American or a Texan Tejano, right? And you're different, you have rights, all protections guaranteed by the United States Constitution. Listen to my story. If that's true, this never would have happened to me in Amarillo, Texas. And if you say, well, he's a Jew, hey, look, I'm going to tell you straight up. The Portugal government estimates that there's 200 million Jewish descendants of Orthodox great grandparents who don't know that they're Jews, and a huge population is right there in South America. It's not limited to brown people or white people, but black people and Asians and everybody else. I mean, everyone's being misled by the church, and it's been in the news and in movies and just everything that you can receive information. Yeah, all your life you can say that every American here in the United States of America that is impoverished. Yeah, you've been preconditioned and controlled by news or information outlets all your life. So, and so when they say illegal immigrants, and when you agree, the illegal immigrants, the Mexicans, right? Because that's what everybody here in the United States looks at us. They call me, tell me to go back where I came from, all this crazy stuff. But I'm born in Denver, Colorado. My people been here way before anybody came over here. Okay. Now, yes, the Vikings did come here on the West Coast, right? Hear about, natives talk about them. You had the Africans and, down there in Mexico and South America by the time the Spanish Inquisition came over here. So, but when they say illegal immigrants, they're talking about me and you, whether you're supposedly illegal, like they say, or even if you're legal here. Think about it. These we make up the workforce here in the United States of America, and we're getting paid low wages, no breaks now. I'm seeing white Americans, white women out there working here in Amarillo, Texas, being disrespected by little kids that are managers and supervisors, or just, in general, people, all American workers are being crapped on by these rich people. And here in Texas, at least, and here in Amarillo, there ain't no American labor right protections. So it's not a race thing. The race game that they play, that these rich people play on both sides, Democrat and Republicans, is to cause division in the United States of America. Because why? What happened in the United States history in wars? When the United States people, right, unite, we're unbeatable. That's how the Confederates found out. That's how these Southern Confederate states that are subscribed today, majority of them are Republicans, right? Conservative Christianity. These are all descendants from the KKK, right? They originated in the Democratic Party, but they're on both sides too. So keep that in mind. And obviously they want to overthrow the United States government. So how do you how do you take over a nation, especially a complex nation like the United States of America with all its different cultures, right? You cause division, right? You should know that from Sunday school. What did Jesus say? A house can't stand divided, or a house divided can't stand, right? So you see that's a metaphor for every country in the world, even going to a person's family, even in personal relationships, even within yourself. If you're not wholly complete, right? If you're not whole and complete as a person, if you're divided, you can't stand. And that's why there's a lot of mental health illnesses out there, but it's really spiritual impurities. It's too much from all the sins that we commit. But so think about it. When you guys say illegal immigrants, I'm gonna call you out in public, everybody, anybody. I'm gonna say, look, you're racist. Only a narcissistic person, right, will call another person illegal. And this is something that's not being talked about in public. It's hard being brown here in the United States of America, because people make you feel, and they tell you directly that you're unwelcome, But this is why all of us that are non-racist from different cultures and that respect the rule of law, right? And respect the United States Constitution and respect equality amongst people, right? We all got to come together. If not, what it seems like from my personal experience, and 5 years later, everything that transpired ever since and currently transpiring now, like this news report, They're trying to destroy the United States of America, guys, and there's going to be a lot of rich people doing this, coming from that church system. So keep that in mind. But look at stop being against illegal immigrants. It hurts all of us, especially if you're brown. You have no. You're just being a puppet for these racist people from the church. And I'll put another video out there, or I'll create a video in the future talking about the impact the church has had since its incorporation, 1700 years ago down there in ancient Rome, and the the damage it caused to every indigenous person it encountered, right? Like in Europe, that happened like 1500 years ago. Then Africa, far south, the whole continent, and then over here on this side, yeah, that was the church doing that. That's why they don't tell you much about the church history. But when you hate a person, like I said, if you hate yourself and you hate other people, you're blaspheming against God. And this video is only directed towards people that are religious, that study the Bible. People that don't read the Bible or understand the Bible, this really isn't meant for them, right? Because I'm not going to infringe on their right to their own religion. Maybe they don't want to be religious. All right, cool. But we all can agree that there's 7 things we all can agree on. We shouldn't murder each other and kill each other and rape each other, right? So no rape, no murder, no blaspheming or lishon hara, talking bad about people, to ruin their reputation, right? When it's untrue. Hurting animals, we all can agree on all this stuff, right? This is how the fabric of all societies operate. And Paul talks about this in Romans, the 7 Noahide laws. And they're also found in Acts 15. We shouldn't steal from each other, rob each other, right? We have to be, you know, um, we have to accept, the lot we have in life, whether we're poor or rich. And, we have to understand that God put us in this position and he wants us to be in this position for us to improve. If you're poor, to improve that position. And if you're rich, to improve the corruption, right? To make it uncorrupt. And that's a common denominator, even with us poor people. We're, living in uncorrupt or, corrupt neighborhoods caused by a lot of rich people. And our task is the same thing as the rich people, to uncorrupt it, right? And not hurting animals, we all can agree on that. And what about idol worship? Yeah, um maybe I don't like worship or pray to an entity that's created or any of that. I just I pray to God, that's it. And if you don't believe in God, maybe it would still constitute idol worship, but it's not, you're not obligated to believe in God, So I really don't see a problem with that we all can agree on, because if you don't murder people, then hey, I don't have to, that's one less person to worry about, right? So, but when you throw in the other, 7 Noahide laws on top of that, right? Not lying, disrespecting people, stealing, killing, raping, theft, all that stuff, talking bad about people when it's untrue, because you're talking bad about them because you want to ruin who they are based on lies, right? What about, the courts of justice? Obviously, we're all governed by some kind of judicial system, whether it's our government or our state or a city or town you live in, right? Even your own family got its own judicial laws, right? You can't do this, you can't do that. It's punishable by getting beat down, right? Being punished as a kid. And not in the sense of causing a kid to suffer or injuries or anything. Just simply talking to the kid and reprimanding the kid in a positive, honorable way, respectful way, instead of why would you hate your own kid? But these are things that we have to start over to understand where all these things are coming from, and it's coming from the church. That's why you see all these crime all this crime here in the United States of America and across the world, right? But that's that church system causing all this. Look what she says in this news report. If the border was even shut down today, we have an extreme problem with the illegals that are already in this country, she said. She's talking about people like me, brown Americans, Mexican Americans, freaking half, or white Mexican Americans, man. She's talking about all of us that because these rich people are they know about it, and they're seeing that a lot of people coming up from South America, Black, Asian, Middle Eastern, and they're speaking Spanish too. So she's talking about, in a sense, she's talking about all of us, you guys. There's German Mexicans down there in Mexico and Irish Mexicans in Mexico. I mean, you know, so but this is hate speech. Look what she said, She says there's illegals in this country. Yeah, right here in Texas. I've came across people that are from Mexico and they live here in Texas in the last 5 years. So what does that tell you? It's your own Texas Republican, two good shoe conservative Christians that just that they're corrupt and they're promoting hate speech, and they hate their South and they hate their own skin color, but it's all promulgated by the church. She says there are a lot of criminals. That's been proven. Yeah, you're look at what I'm alleging over here. The Emerald Police Department. Okay, eventually they will be charged. If somebody just does the right thing, investigate my complaints at the Department of Justice. These politicians here, that Republican, they're corrupt. So it's not illegal immigrants, it's not brown immigrants, Black immigrants, nice maneuver trying to trying to create some kind of division between the Black and brown communities in the United States of America. Because I'm calling that BS out. And the fools that believe in that, what this woman's saying, and believes in this Fox News channel, I'm gonna call you out too. Like, look, only a fool believes what he's told. You know what I'm saying? And you guys, it's coming. It's already here, you guys. The implications of all this stuff. People are being degraded at work. So if you feel isolated at work, don't kill anybody. This is happening to all of us. Doesn't matter what skin color you are. Long as if you're not rich and you're not selling people out for riches, you're going to be a victim like the rest of us. But don't feel isolated. It's happening to all of us, and it's increasing. And it's being promulgated by people like her. Look at, she says, they are a lot of criminals. So I don't know if she's saying a lot. I don't know if she is saying they are a lot of criminals, or a lot, a group of criminals. That's what she's saying. That's been proven. There's child molesters. There's murderers. This lady is so out of touch with reality. Here in Texas, they have over 3,000 and probably even more now. They have, from last year's report, there's over 3,000 used rape test kits sitting here across, many police departments in Texas. And obviously, when you look at the attorney general here, that dude is corrupt. That fool's still on bond 7 years later. Right? And everyone act like this is okay. Yet your Texas Attorney General is on bond with the FBI, right? 2 times now. And you really think that he's not practicing a law of corruption? That's why the living condition is deteriorating here in Texas, lady. It's not because of us, brown people, all right? Or immigrants, so she says there's child molesters, there's murderers. Like I said, what about these these rape test kits that are used and nobody wants to process them in these police departments? Because I'll tell you why. It's going to implicate a lot of rich people, kids out here, and politicians. But she says it's going to take the FBI, the CIA, ICE, everybody. Number one, shut the borders, and then let's get on this. Let's deport them all, Douglas said. So look at, You need to go here on Google, search and type in the Mexican American Repatriation Act and understand when they start saying this going across the country, they're going to try to deport us Mexican Americans. And it's going to be impossible this time because there's a lot of social media outlets that's going to report it. The rest of the world's going to be mad at the United States government. But most importantly, we're the majority and we're the native people of this land and we're the majority group. That's proven. You think I'm lying? You're watching this video tomorrow when you go to work, rest of the week, it's the weekend, right? Rest of the weekend. Observe. Who do you see? You're gonna be like, that's a brown person. You're gonna see nothing. You're gonna start seeing as reality is. You're gonna see brown Americans, and we're citizens everywhere. And she wants to use the FBI, the CIA, and ICE to do this. She's rich. This is a rich woman, you guys. She has political ties. That's why she's saying all this stuff. And this is why the Fox News channel is broadcasting this. And it's a shame, but brown Americans, wake up. Black Americans, wake up. White Americans, wake up. Asian Americans, wake up. Everybody that's here is American, legal, illegal. The point is, we're all here today and we're all faced with a problem. And the problem is, these people from these church institutions that are super rich, they practice the double standard of law and they want to enslave all of us. And that's why white American women are discovering the implications given right by the Republican Party by taking away, you know, reproductive rights, abortion. And these Christians only weaponize the Bible when it's convenient, like Ted Cruz, for example, right? Just, it's convenient for him to go to Mexico when everybody's freezing here in Texas, take him and his family, and probably friends and whoever else, right? And his staff to go to Mexico because it's convenient, but he hates Mexican Americans. That cat, he hates Mexicans, but when it's convenient for him to go to Taco Bell or to go to Texas or to go to Mexico, right? It's convenient, it's acceptable when it's convenient for them. And that's the way they use the Bible too, when it's convenient for them. Their false doctrine that was shunned by the European churches, right? Evangelical Christians over there in Europe, they excommunicated the people that created this saved by grace doctrine over 100 years ago. But right, you're saved by grace, so you don't have to follow the laws of God because Jesus Christ, being God, he's the only one that can keep his own commandments. So you're saved by grace, right? So what about the parts in the Bible in the New Testament that says to mind your own business, not to call people names, and all this stuff that you're doing that's against the New Testament? But that's why I tell people all the time. What's crazy is that we're brought up in this church institution, but they never gave us any education. That's why none of us that went to church can read the Bible in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, right? Unless you pray out to God and God wants to answer your prayer and give you the ability to sit down and study, right? To have all the patience in the world to go over these languages and to learn them. Me, in prison, it took me 3 months to learn these 3 languages. That's how much time I invested in it. And like I said, I accomplished my life goal. But they never educated us. They never told us about the Mexican Repatriation Act when we were growing up. I didn't know this stuff until I went to college, and that was back in the late 1990s. You know what I'm saying? They knew about it. These church people, they smile in your face but stab you in your back. And this report just irks me because she's trying to cause division between the black and brown community here. And now she's trying to call the FBI, the CIA, and ICE. Like I said, Trump, under his administration, they weaponized the FBI. That's how I ended up on the FBI watch list, the terrorist list, because I filed a complaint against these people here in Amarillo, Texas, the government, right? And they weaponized it and put me on the terrorist list. And I didn't know about it until 2019. So that was over a year, and I'm still on it, all for, for reporting crime, for reporting for reporting public corruption in the government here in Texas, right? I got put on the FBI watch list. So that's a bad idea for this lady to say that. The CIA, while, if you listen to the OGs in the hoods, we'll tell you, yeah, we're kids and all that. These rich people took away all the jobs all over the United States of America, impoverished our communities, and then introduced us to not only alcohol, because I grew up in Denver, and man, there was every other block was a freaking liquor store. And when I started getting older and going to the suburbs, right, driving a car over there, girlfriends, and then I would see that community, and like, man, they only had one liquor store in a 1 mile, 2 mile radius. Denver, you got freaking, in Southwest Denver, liquor stores on every other block. So that's the story of the CIA introducing alcohol and drugs into our community, right? And obviously other cultures of people that are poor right there with us, whatever they're at, I think we're all being punished by our ancestors, by a lot of rich people that became politicians here in the United States of America. That's why you see white people, right? If white supremacy was just like, if every white American here in the United States of America was racist and white pride, right? And believed in white supremacy over every race, right? Because that's what they believe. White supremacists believe in there's many races and they're the ultimate race. We wouldn't be free right now if it was true. But not all white people are racist, just like not all black people are racist, and not all Mexicans are racist, and not all Asians are racist. It's a spiritual impurity. It's a spiritual defect that God put in us for the ones that are more, inclined to be racist. That's all, and people need to correct that. But when you're improperly educated about God, right, and the King Messiah that they call Jesus, yeah, there's going to be distorted reality, or it's going to be a distorted education that you receive, and your whole reality, of course, is going to be distorted. But we're told in the New Testament, with God everything's possible, but with man everything is impossible. So it's a bad idea that she's trying to weaponize the FBI, the CIA, and ICE. ICE, I mean, there's a lot of Mexican dudes here in ICE, right? Like this guy, check this out. So this Mexican American ICE worker, a couple of weeks ago, they discovered, I don't know who discovered it, but it was a news report here in Texas on the border, found out he's a legal immigrant, right? So everybody that he made friends and his family made friends with, right? This guy, he had a birth certificate, and it was fraudulent, and he spent all of his life. This guy looked like he was in his 50s already, and they found out he's a legal immigrant, and now they want to deport him to Mexico. And he's saying he can't go to Mexico because they're going to kill him. It's unsafe. Now he understands what it's like for the illegal immigrants that they're calling, right? His own people he's calling, that he told to. I'm sure he disrespected these people on the border because these people are committing crimes here in Texas, the ICE. But like this story, I wonder if they sent him to Mexico or not. But goes to show you how corrupt Texas government is. It's not Joe Biden's fault. It's your Republican politicians and the government here that's controlled by them. That's what's corrupt. How many years now the Republican Party been running Texas? Like they said, is it 20 years? And look how bad it is. That's not Joe Biden's fault. That's not Obama. That's Trump's, right? That's Trump's fault, and that's these conservative, racist Christians and that hold on to all this fear-mongering and hate speech. But she says, so Douglas says she's more vigilant now in protecting herself following the kidnapping of Americans. Now, this lady right here, you guys, if you guys know her, if you live by her little, by her ranch, be cautious around her and everybody she associates with, because now she's being more vigilant. So you can be, a person of color, and she knows there's a lot of white skinned Mexicans coming up and black skinned Mexicans and Asians and all that. And, you know, because her reality is distorted, you have to be cautious around her and everybody, you know, she associates with, because the people she associates with obviously is going to have a tendency to believe what she believes. And she's saying that she's going to, you know, she's becoming more vigilant now in protecting herself. This lady's going to, you know, hopefully it doesn't happen, God forbid, but people like her are going to cause more killings here in the United States of America because she's afraid. And it's just lies, you know, it's propaganda, you guys. You guys got to take this stuff serious. They're going to enslave all of us, these rich people, I'm telling you. But, anyways, I've always been vigilant since the illegals have been pouring in, she said. So who knows how many people she killed already on the border, you guys. That's how corrupt Texas is. And if you don't know about Mexican American history in Texas, like the Mexican Revolution in Pancho Villa, go read up on that stuff. This is dangerous stuff she's saying. And I'm just calling out why the Fox News channel, I mean, not why, but I'm just calling it as it is. They're racist. They're supporting and promoting white, you know, or, you know, white supremacy and hate speech. And it's wrong, morally wrong. All we can do is be armed and protect, she said. Do you see what I'm saying, you guys? Do you see where she's going in this news article? So I just wanted to critically think about what she's saying, add on some, you know, background context to the climate of the United States of America. Um, you know, the racism. If it was true, if all white people were racist, then all of us would have been enslaved, definitely by, you know, during the time in the 1930s and 40s when the Republican Party led presidency, massively deported Mexican Americans, 2 million of our ancestors, you know, family members. That's why do you think if you're Mexican American, you're a Chicano, and you're like me, you're half breed, crossbreed, whatever, and you're wondering why you have a small family, right? It's and but you see other people running around with your last name spelled the same way, all that. That's because of those Republican Christians that you guys are supporting. If you support their ideology and that church institution, it's because of them that we're divided. Why we have small families, and you know, for everybody coming up from South America, wonder why us white Mexican Americans are divided like this and come from small families. Well, you should know, you know, now at least you know, you'd be better informed now, you know, watching this video, that this is the fallout from the Mexican American Repatriation Act back in the 1930s and the 1940s. Obviously the families that were left here, yeah, we were further isolated, we were further victimized, we were further impoverished. So, you know, like I said, my whole life, yeah, I've been called a beaner, a spit, a wetback, a greaser. Don't belong, you know. And this is why, like the Fox News channel, and this is why, because this lady right here, being white, being rich, being a Christian, promoting hate speech. And like I said, who knows how many nationalities of people that come up in her area, how many her family has killed and raped. I'm telling you guys, and robbed. This stuff is serious. And I'm calling it out. You know, I'm not going to stand, you know, down to rich Christians that are conservative and they're racist and they don't even know a lick about the New Testament, anyways. You know, they don't want to teach you how to read and write Hebrew, nor Aramaic or Greek. And you're probably wondering, well, the Aramaic, why would I need to learn Aramaic to read the Bible? Because, like the book of Daniel, if you know anything about Jewish history, then you would know the prophet wrote that book in captivity in where? Babylonia. And in Babylonia, what did they speak? Aramaic, not Hebrew. They were conquered by Babylonia, right? And he wrote that in Aramaic. And you know, the church scholars know this, but if your pastor isn't teaching you this, like I said, what are you doing there? They never taught us nothing anyways but to hate ourselves and hate everybody and be submissive to them. turn your cheek, get cracked one side, turn your other cheek, get cracked in the other side, walk the extra mile while these cats don't want to walk that extra mile. It's time to wake up. It's time to organize our impoverished communities and accept it as it is. Yeah, we're poor. You might think you're rich, but you're living in a delusion. Because I'll ask you, a lot of people do. They try to clown on me. I own a house. Okay, show me your property deed. Oh, the bank. Okay, so your bank owns the house. You don't own the bank, so you've been lied to. Your reality is distorted. Come floss in their car, right? 2023 car. I'm at the bus stop. They're laughing. Show me your car title, dog. Oh, I can't. Why not? Because I haven't paid. I'm making payments on this still. Okay, so you don't even own that car. Your reality is distorted. What about the Bible? If you can't read and didn't know about, certain prophetic books or writings in the Bible written in Aramaic, man, you're missing out on the whole message of the Bible, you guys. I'm telling you. And you know, there's just so much to go over, but I had to get this out. I had to make this video. I had to call it as it is. I ain't gonna let this rich woman use half of my culture, right? Because I'm Irish German, and Polish, and like I said, Prague and Yugoslovakia, or Yugoslavian. I'm Finland, in that whole area. So I'm gonna let her or the Fox News channel manipulate white American minds to think that there's an invasion going on, that you have to get guns, because that's what she's implying. The inference, what's the inference? Deriving a conclusion based on the evidence and sound reasoning, right? Not just reasoning, but you have to have sound reasoning. 1+1 is still what? 2. So you already got, you guys, made you think. But see how bad the disinformation is, and the misinformation is causing a lot of people to fall victim to double guess themselves and their own decisions. That's how bad it is out there. And I just want people to understand what's really happening here in Texas. You guys, I mean, I watch TikTok videos and people on the border are showing on the border what's really happening. Keep in mind, this news report didn't mention nothing about Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott, the hero, right? The Texas Ranger guy, the poster guy for the Texas Ranger. I'm just joking, but if you know anything about Texas Ranger history, then you know they hate Mexican Americans, they hate blacks, they hate Asians, they hate everybody. It's not them, They're white supremacy. And this news report didn't mention, right? What about Governor Greg Abbott? Where's the Texas National Guard? Right? So let's dissect what she's saying, and let's dissect what the Fox News is reporting here. It's falsehood, it's deception, it's misleading, it's lies, it's hate speech, and it's meant to cause division by psychologically manipulating your mental faculties and your emotional faculties and your behavioral faculties to be in fear and anxiety. I don't want to live in a society this way. It's bad enough our communities are broken, and it's no wonder why families are broken from rich and poor here in the United States of America, right? But rest of the world's like this too. I don't want to live like this, so I got to stand up. Whether it's me against everybody, and it's not me against nobody, it's me just telling the truth. And a lot of people are going to get mad, and I really don't care. I'm not a passive dude, and after this past 5 years, my whole life I've been passive aggressive, but now I'm not tolerating any violence towards me or threats. I'm taking things serious, and I'm just trying to get people to wake up and understand. Look, I'm your friend, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna murder you or kill you or rape you or steal anything from you or sell drugs to you. I ain't gonna do nothing, man. But tell you the truth. Hey, let's meet up so we can go over the Bible here, and I'll teach you how to read and write Hebrew and Aramaic and Greek, and you read the Bible for yourself. That's the beauty about the message. Check it out. That's how I know this is from God. Because the church, they don't teach you this stuff, and if you want to learn, you have to pay a lot of money to go to their colleges to learn this stuff, and you still won't learn it because they don't know these languages. And I sat in prison and read these things in books, and I read a lot of rabbinical writings, or books, or just whatever that was Jewish in prison I could get my hands on. I read it. I had access to the whole Zohar collection that was in Aramaic and translated in English, but it's still, you know, if I still have to rely on the translation because I have to increase my vocabulary, right? But it's hard to learn languages when nobody around you is speaking this stuff. And it gets boring after a while because you don't, imagine that. Imagine a life like that. In order to increase your vocabulary in three ancient languages, right, that are dead languages, in order to increase your vocabulary and to memorize it, you have to study these three different languages all day, all night, right? And that's what it would take by myself. And it's impossible because the Bible wasn't written for no private relationship with God, anyways. It was given to a community of people, not just one person. It's meant for a community of people. So that's why I can't increase in these languages, because I'm not around people that are speaking it, right? And that's one thing about languages I learned. If your ears have to hear that language, you have to hear that the energy reverberating in your eardrums, right? Different languages and the way they enunciate the words and all that stuff. But when no one's around you, reading or speaking these languages, it's hard to increase. For me, at least, it's hard for me to increase my vocabulary. But the beautiful thing is, man, we can sit down. Imagine that coming from the hood, right? Overlooked, disrespected, impoverished. We're all this way. We all share that common denominator, and never forget that, man. Never fall for the, you know, delusions that people put out there. The truth has to be told. A lot of us coming from this impoverished neighborhoods across the United States of America, our reality is distorted big time. And the only way that we can, you know, get out of this distortion, imagine that. The reality that you perceive right now is distorted. And it's distorted because of the information that you received about the Bible. That's where it all began. And we can overcome that. Imagine that. Sitting down, drinking coffee, studying these languages, coming to the truth. You won't have to listen to me or anybody if you can master these languages, right? And people can today. It's more accessible today than ever. That's why I'm still alive after being crushed and no medical treatment. I'm still in pain 5 years later, right? But God has me around, and I'm seeing that picture now. It's taken 5 years for me to realize that He kept me around, obviously to straighten out my life and to share this stuff for free with people, so they can read the Bible themselves, so they can be liberated. Physically, we're not literally physically enslaved, but psychologically, yeah, a lot of us are enslaved. Majority of us, if not the whole world, are enslaved, and it has to do with the Bible and the manipulation of the mind and the emotions and behavior, and the only way that we can overcome this is by going into the Bible and reading it for itself, and then deciding for ourselves, right? Me, I'm pro rabbi all the way. I will be that the rest of my life. I grew up majority of I grew up for the majority of my life not knowing what I wanted to become, and pretty much I didn't know what to do with my life. What I want to become. Nothing really. I mean, a lot of things interest me, but a lot of things didn't interest me enough to, I went to college, but I never got a degree because it's hard working 40 plus hours and going to college full time, even part time, and it takes longer to go to college. And my life, for me, it's been unstable my whole life. And, but I'm able to sit down and read the Bible, and I want other people to hear this message. God is doing this. I never seen God. I never heard his voice. When I died, or had a near-death experience. I didn't see God. I didn't go to heaven. But I can prove what these people at this church, like their leaders, are saying. And with their stories of going to heaven and how I could prove all that is nothing but lies by the New Testament in the Greek. But that's how I know this is from God, because the beautiful thing is this is easily accessible to everyone, whether you're rich or poor, if you're right or wrong, legal or illegal, gay or not gay, whoever wants to just increase their education in the Bible, God's making it accessible more than ever today. That's why we have the technology today. That's why we have these phones with these free apps to study the Bible. That's the most important thing for me, is to, I was to read the Bible for myself and to decide for myself who I wanted to believe in. And, now I believe in the rabbis, what the rabbis say, the Orthodox rabbis. They're called Pharisees, Prushim. But that's what Jesus Christ is presented as too. He's presented as a Pharisee and the King Messiah, not God, none of that. But imagine that, being able to read the Bible for yourself in the three languages, and you don't have to pay money for that education, right? You just got to spend your own money to get your pen and paper, get your coffee, and a lot of time to sit down, and you have to invest in yourself. That's how I know this is from God. He's trying to rise a lot of leaders today, people that are going to tell the truth and stand for the truth and call out no matter who the people are or person is, right? And call them out in their fallacies and their lies and their deception and their intentions. This whole Fox News report right here, I'm taking it serious because the intention is to cause racial tensions here in the United States of America. And she thinks that because she's white and she's rich, right? And she can get on the Fox News channel, and the Fox News channel, what this report implies is that this Fox News channel supports her ideology, right? Fear mongering, causing fear in Americans' heart and mind. Man, I can't be quiet no more. A lot of these conservative Christians that are richer in Amarillo, man, they try to murder me. I didn't do anything wrong. And the department, I don't know why the Department of Justice won't answer my complaints. I don't, it's so messed up, and it's so bad that nobody wants to help me. So what am I supposed to do? Right? Call out to God. And obviously he has me around, because now my friends that were arguing with me, finding out that they're Orthodox Jewish descendants, there's going to be a huge population right there in Denver, Colorado, on the west side, right? Orthodox Jewish descendants. And we didn't even know it until now. And we're studying the Hebrew and the Greek and the Aramaic, and going over a lot of stuff, because we're finding out through our family documents and DNA tests that we're Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jew. So Sephardic Jew. So when they say Sephar or Sephardic, that's Spanish Jews. Okay, they speak Spanish. Going all the way to ancient Rome, the Latin language, right? That's the mother of all Spanish languages. Um, and we're half Ashkenaz from Germany and Prague and Poland, Yugoslavia and all that stuff. It's a trick, but it's a beautiful thing too, because the Jews been everywhere in exile, and obviously, um, this made it possible, right, for a lot of us to be descendants of Jewish people. But that's how bad history has been. And don't let these people mislead you. Love one another, love yourself. It's time to call time out in the world and just say, you know what? All this hate speech, all it's doing is poisoning my mind. That's what it's doing. All these people with higher educations, with money, reputation, saying dumb things like this report right here, you guys. It's triggering our emotions. and our behavior? Why do you think there's an uptick in crime? You know, so we have to take this serious. Love yourself, love everybody, love the animals, stop hurting everything, stop being destructive, you know, return to God. It's time for us to finish the divine plan, you know, and that's by rectifying ourselves through the 7 Noahide laws. You know, for myself, finding out that I'm Jewish and everything, it's really difficult to just be Jewish, right? To be a Jew all of a sudden, especially an Orthodox Jew, you know, following the 40,000 divine injunctions given by God, right? So the most rational thing that I'm doing is following the 7 Noahide laws. And obviously, I don't believe in Jesus Christ and the New Testament, but look how much information I know about the Greek New Testament, you know, and a lot. I mean, so much. I mean, it's ridiculous, you know, but because the rabbi said, so I can only do as much as I can do, you know, following the 7 Noahide laws. And, you know, people in the past would say it's impossible to keep the laws of God. Well, how? If you can't stop murdering people, I don't want you around me. If you can't stop raping people, I don't want you around me. If you can't stop lying to people, I don't want you around me. If you can't stop talking bad about people, I don't want you around me. If you can't stop being, you know, raping people, I don't want you around. I think I already said that. If you're hurting animals, I don't want you around me. I'm sorry. I don't want to live in a society this way. And that's why I'm speaking out. And I hopefully pray to God, please, God, give me some help over here, because like George Santos with That Food did, telling the Jewish people over there on the East Coast, and I don't understand how those Jewish people believed in this food anyways. I would be like, oh, you're a Jew? Really? Okay, sure. Can you read? Can you comprehend the biblical Hebrew? You know, if not, then hey, you're not a Jew. You know, you're gonna be suspicious to me. And but the ramifications of George Santos over there lying and everything. Now everyone's looking at brown people. We're illegal, right? And we've known this for a long time. No one has to remind us to go back where we came from. No one needs to remind us that we're illegal, you know, but we're American citizens. We understand the hate speech. We understand this. This isn't something new. It's just new that it's increasing and being publicized on these racist news outlets. Fox News, it's promoting racism. Sorry, that's the way it is, you know. And this isn't nothing new for us, but it's going to get dangerous. And like I said, I don't want to live in a society this way, and I don't have to go anywhere because once again, I'm native here. I can prove it in so many ways that I've been here in Denver, Colorado. My ancestors been in the Southwest area of the United States and up in Canada and South America way before the Spanish Inquisition came here. So, you know, but because George Santos is a liar, right? They're torturing this poor dude. But that's what he gets too, you know. Hopefully he learns from it and doesn't commit suicide or nothing. Hey, start a new life, George Santos. If you got to go to prison, you know, speaking from past experiences, whether you commit the crime or not, these cats don't care because you're brown skin. They're going to give you a lot of time in prison if they do. And if they do, hey, you did all this stuff. You created all this friction. Be a man and do your time. Can't do the time, don't do the crime, right? And when you get out, obviously you're going to have a lot of money because I'm pretty sure you're not dumb. And these cats paid you a lot of money to lie to people about your nationality or your culture or you know all that stuff. But the ramification is you made people like me that are actually Jewish descendants and our friends and family and all that stuff. You know, a lot of more people that are going to discover that they're Orthodox Jewish descendants. You're going to make the Jews that know they're Jews, right? You're going to make them second guess us. Now you made us suspicious here in the United States of America. You helped Donald Trump put that hate towards Mexican Americans, and I wonder if you did that for that reason, anyways, because you're from where are you from again? I have friends over there too. Guatemala. So, maybe you did it for that reason and you made a lot of money. I don't know, but the ramification is you made us all look like criminals and liars now. And the only way that we're going to prove that we're Jews is that, look, DNA, family documents, we studied the Torah, but we're a different breed of Jews. Like, obviously, ancestors were forced to convert to the church. Um, whichever way it was. At the end of the day, we're studying the Torah in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. And this is God doing this for us. He's helping us do this. He's not doing it for us. He's giving us the ability to do it. And I want to spread this, with everybody in the hoods all over the United States of America. We got to take accountability and responsibility back for ourselves and become, you know, intelligent people that can, understand what we're doing and what's being done to us and how it's affecting us and our families and our communities. It's time to rebuild, you know, because God's going to help us do it. He's going to give us the blessings, the favor to be able to accomplish all this stuff. But as for this lady, I hope that she rethinks her position and stops hopefully she watches this video, because like I said, I'm here in Amarillo, Texas, and she's down there in Brownsville, Texas. Maybe people, if you're watching this video, press like, share it. Maybe it won't make sense to you. Maybe it'll make a lot of sense to the next person. And you're not doing anything wrong. You're not committing a crime. I'm not asking you to commit a crime by sharing these videos, but spread it around. God is obviously giving a lot of, people like me, a lot of information, which is like, a metaphor for light to guide us in these dark and confusing times. But there's nothing to be afraid about. Don't be terrified. Don't be anxious. I'm not a propagandist, you know. I'm just calling the BS out, this hate speech. It has to stop. It has to end now. And I guess we all forgot what it means to be American, right? We're supposed to stand up for one another, no matter if we're rich or poor, no matter if we're different skin colors. We're supposed to stand up for one another, right? And if you weren't brought up this way, then that just shows the difference between my family and yours, But y'all know what I'm talking about. American history. We all united. Our, grandparents united in World War II. There's a lot of Mexican, illegal Mexicans and legal Mexicans that went and fought for the United States Constitution after the Mexican Repatriation Act, when they, Republican government led by the president Roosevelt, um, wrongly and unlawfully massively deported over 2 million Mexican American citizens to Mexico. Everybody still came back and fought and defended the United States Constitution after all that. So I don't know what people are talking about going home. Obviously, these Republican churches don't want to teach you about American history. And all you Christian pastors and prophets out there and prophetesses out there, you guys need to stand up and start telling the truth. And you need to get out of that church system yourself. What I'm teaching over here about the Greek New Testament, about Jesus being a Pharisaic rabbi, about the Kabbalist, concepts found in the New Testament, it's incompatible with the church system. The 7 Noahide laws found in Acts 15, verses 19, 20, and 21, it's incompatible with the church. Oh, saved by grace doctrine? Go read Romans chapter 6 through 7, because that's what Paul is talking about when he talked about, saved by grace and you're not under the law. So the grace, the kindness of God, that's what grace means anyways, kindness. All right. So Paul's actually given a theological, or he's actually talking about our father Abraham, going back into Genesis. And I think, that begins in Genesis chapter 11, about our father Abraham. He's actually talking about the kindnesses God did for Abraham because Abraham discovered God, because Abraham lived in, he's a Chaldean from Mesopotamia, and he was a astrologist, a grand astrologist, leading his time in his generation, the best, most educated astrologists out there studying planetary systems, is how he discovered that there's only one God that created everything, and his father, and he worked in his father's business. They made idols for Mesopotamian people back then, Paul is talking about the kindnesses that God revealed to Abraham when God revealed himself to Abraham. But that church system, like I said, today they're manipulating and lying to everybody and telling everybody they're saved by grace, so you don't have to follow the law of God because you're not under the law. You are under the law if you're not following the 7 Noahide laws. And the New Testament isn't talking to Christians or the church. I can prove it in the Greek over and over. Go ask your pastors. Go ask the Christian scholars. If they want to tell you the truth, they'll tell you the truth, But God is calling us to return to him through education. And remember American history. We made it through, all the racism in the past couldn't stop us today. That's why we're all free today. And once again, in our generation, every one of us has to stand up and unite to defend the United States Constitution, okay? Because we're all losing rights. I'm seeing news reports, in the last 5 years. I've watched videos, read news reports, in pain, all this crazy stuff. But anyways, and I'm seeing every American being attacked because they're not rich and they don't have higher education. And even at times when they do, they're still being attacked. They're being mistreated at work, being forced to work. When tornadoes are outside howling around your city, you got to keep working and die at work. That ain't the America I come from. I don't know what they talking about. I don't know what people are talking about and what got into people. But it's time for us all to return to ourselves and to return to God and tell it as it is and to unite. You want to believe in the hype? You want to stay divided? When we all find ourselves enslaved, I'll be right there with you. I ain't no sellout. I'll be right there with you guys. And I'm going to tell you guys straight up, I don't want to hear you guys crying. I don't want to hear you kvetching about nothing because I told you, like right now, right? So obviously this is hypothetically speaking in the future, reflecting on the past. When you thought I was crazy, didn't take these news articles serious and the behavior of these people serious, and God forbid we find ourselves enslaved, but I'll be there with you. I don't want to hear you crying. It's too late now, we're being enslaved. And this is modern science. Think about slavery with modern science, you guys, and modern weapons. That's going to be terrible. But it won't happen. It won't come to that point. There's a possibility it could if we keep playing around and getting in this hype where we're filled with hatred and dividing ourselves. It's a shame, but it's these rich people that are just out of touch with reality, and they have their own understanding of the Bible based on translation. And we got to have compassion for these people because they're spiritually lost. And you got to remember, Jesus said the way to life, right, eternal life, is on that small path. He said hardly anybody travels on it. And he said the path to destruction, he's talking about self-destruction, not the path that's going to lead you to hell, but the path that's going to lead you to self-destruction, right? Which is metaphorically speaking about Gehenna or hell. And he said, unfortunately, majority of the people of the world are going to follow that broad path and they're going to perish. So you might, get people to believe in what you believe in, and because a lot of people are doing it, so it seems acceptable. No, it's still going to be wrong. But the only way you're really going to know about it is by reading the Greek New Testament, Acts 15, verses 19, 20, and 21. I would say read the whole context of Acts 15 anyways, instead of chopping up the Bible and trying to tell me something based on one verse and you leave out the whole context. I'm talking about, when I talk about the New Testament, I'm not just talking about a verse or one chapter. I'm talking about either, and I'm really following the logic of the author, whoever the authors are. And is usually consists sometimes, like in Paul's writings, he's talking about one thing for like freaking 5 or 6 chapters. And in that one thing he's talking about, there's many concepts and sub concepts and just, unlimited information that is almost, it's impossible to analyze and to dissect it down to its base, of its understanding, because it's spiritual knowledge, it's divine knowledge. But the Greek New Testament isn't infallible, it's fallible. I mean, there's all kind of places I can show you the Greek New Testament. It's wrong. Yeah, it's wrong. They even quote the Torah, right? And the prophets and the writings wrong. So just God bless everybody, man. Thank you for letting me decompress and making this video and talking about how harmful this hate speech is and the psychological manipulation. Just by the title, look at Texas rancher eviscerates traitorous Biden, calling our president, the United States of America, our United States President Joe Biden and his whole family, because that's what it implies too. And everybody and anybody who associates with President Biden, they're viewing us as traitors. But it's really Donald Trump, that is trying to overthrow the United States government. But it's, powerful people. It's crazy. But the truth has to be told. All right, God bless you guys. I'm out of here.